This week's book is The Golden Ticket, A Life in College Admissions Essays. I only read it electronically, which is why we're holding it up like this. And guess what? This is another one where I'm going to be asking you questions instead of you asking me questions.
My name is Irena Adams. I was born in Odessa, USSR. I wrote 2 books set in the Soviet Union. My daughter was born in America. I'm going to tell her about the Soviet experience through books.
So I started reading this book because I do work in school admissions. I don't work in college admissions. I work, because this is New York City, I work in high school, middle school, and yes, kindergarten and preschool admissions, because this is something we need to do in New York City. So I'm reading this book, and it's by an author named Irena Smith. And I'm reading it, and she says, I was born in the former Soviet Union. And I went, I was born in the former Soviet Union. And then she says, and then we immigrated to America. I immigrated to America. And then she says, we immigrated to San Francisco. And I go, okay, I immigrated to San Francisco. And then she says, I was sent to a Jewish day school, and she describes the neighborhood. And I go, okay, I went to that Jewish day school in the late 1970s. And then I go, Irena Smith. I think she's Irena Averbuk. And I pull out my yearbook and I find a picture. And because we live in the age of miracle and wonders, I email her and I say, are you Irena Averbuk? And include the picture, and she says yes. So last week we were talking about how I never saw myself in books growing up, and even as an adult pretty much. And last week's Marina Radon's book was very relatable, and this one was super relatable because how many people don't know a person who was born in the Soviet Union, then moved to San Francisco, California, then attended a Jewish day school, then ended up working in school admissions? I mean, as the youth say, twinsies. So you're 16. You're that's how she reacts whenever we bring it up. You are a junior in high school. That's how she reacts whenever we bring it up. What are your thoughts on college admissions, and how are the people around you responding?
As a junior, now everyone's realizing that they should start thinking about college, right? But I didn't realize that since I'm a younger sibling, right? Like, college is just always just something that's been talked about, you know?
Well, one of the things that Irena Smith talks about in her book, The Golden Ticket, A Life in College Admissions Essays, is because she works in in Palo Alto, which is around Silicon Valley, which is in the same area as Stanford. And so she suggests that the parents there are a wee bit insane. Now, I also, because I work in New York City school admissions, would also confirm that some parents in New York City are a wee bit insane. So I'm just curious how it sounds to you, young people, when parents are plotting out your life from the time that before you enter kindergarten, and there's this culture of achieve. And how does that sound to you? I know what's coming out of my mouth, but what's going into your ears?
Where I go to school, I'm not really surrounded by that aesthetic. The parents aren't like, you must achieve, like in Schoolhouse Rock. I was just watching it today, right? But it's more like kids in my school do things so they're genuinely interested in it, and it just happens to look good, like on college applications usually, because they're very smart and they're nerds.
So you were talking about the kids at your school, and the fact is, while the majority of the kids in your school are not the children of Soviet immigrants, most of the kids in your school are the children of immigrants from all sorts of different places, right?
Yeah, they're really all immigrants or children of immigrants.
So how do you think that affects the achievement culture?
I think that because a lot of people at my school are like immigrants or children of immigrants, there's a lot more benevolence, I think would be a good word, towards education in general. Like, it's more that it's something you get to do, like you have to do it, like, and you kind of hate it because like going to school is not always the funnest, because sometimes you're sitting in class and you're like, I don't want to be here, but then also you're like, it's like, how many people in my family got to be here, you know? I feel like it's a lot more of like, not more positive mindset, but definitely more motivated mindset.
So in the book, one of the other things that Irena talks about is that there is a bit of a difference in attitude among immigrant parents and parents who have been in America for a long time. For immigrant parents, they really see education as the way to succeed in the United States. And it's interesting because the American parents see it too, but they're almost more fearful in the sense that the American parents, but when I say American parents, obviously we're all Americans, but I'm talking about ones who have been in the US for a very long time. I think they're more fearful because they think they're losing something or they're falling behind all these hardworking immigrants who come to the US and really do see education as their path out of who they were and where they used to be. But it's also, and tell me this because you do go to a school that's primarily immigrants, do you think immigrant parents are less likely to coddle their children and say, well, as you know, as my mother, your grandmother always used to say, you don't go to school to have fun, and other things about how maybe they're a little bit less concerned about your self-esteem and more concerned that you get your grades. So is this an attitude that you see in your school, and do you see why American parents might be threatened by it?
Well, yeah, like everyone's threatened by someone who works hard no matter what category you're in because you're worried that you're going to lose your place. You see that in sports, you see that in everything. Like everyone I know is doing something outside of school. For there's very few people in my school who like go home and like sleep. Everyone is always, they're taking extra like Columbia classes, they're doing extra classes after school, they're doing a sport, they're doing another thing. They're always doing something. And I feel like that's very like immigrant child core, you know, like always doing something.
What's interesting though is that one of the messages that Irena Smith does send in her book is parents, chill. And you rolled your eyes, what do you think?
Like, that's gonna work. I'm sorry, but, like, parents are not gonna chill. Parents don't even listen to other parents. They don't listen to their parents. They didn't listen to their parents before. Like, everyone just does what they think is right. I feel like you can look at a person and tell what they did for college and what they were told to do by their parents and, like, what they wanted to do.
Would you say those kids are self-motivated? Would you say they're motivated by their immigrant parents? Or would you say they're motivated by their immigrant parents not in a direct way, not in the sense of their parents saying, go out there and do things, but more like everything that their parents sacrificed to get them to the US? Do they feel that they are compelled to work harder?
I think it's the compelled thing because I don't think a lot of immigrant parents, like, know what their kids, not know what their kids are doing, but like they don't know about opportunities. They don't know like what's going on.
My parents had no idea how the college application system worked when I applied to college, and that is very common with a lot of people coming from different systems. So they actually have no idea that you're supposed to be loading up your CV or anything else. So you think these kids, you know, who are mostly immigrant kids, they're working hard more like because their parents told them to work hard, not because their parents told them, oh, you have to get into Stanford, you have to get into Columbia, you have to get into Princeton.